Well, welcome to the 700 Club, and thanks for joining us. Today is a red letter day. Terry Musin has recovered from her many trials and is back smiling again. So welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back. And I want to say thank you to all of you. I have gotten stacks of cards and so many of you saying you've prayed. And honestly, I want to tell you, your prayers have made a difference. I have no pain. I'm moving well, no canes, walkers, just
And you're ready
healed.
to travel the world and long-distance
Maybe
flights?
next month, but
not quite yet. All right.
But so great to be back. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you,
we
Gordon.
missed you.
Missed you too.
We missed you.
Really did.
Well, let's turn to some bad news coming out of California. Help us. Written in the snow. That's an SOS from desperate residents of a California mountain town. Historic amounts of snow have fallen, blocking roads, stranding citizens, and with no end in sight, 10 million people are under alert as another storm is getting ready to hit the state.
Wow, unbelievable. Well, deadly weather is also wreaking havoc across other parts of the country. 13 people are confirmed dead and hundreds of thousands are without power after severe winds and tornadoes ripped through the heartland. Dale Hurd has the story.
It's a historic winter for the mountain communities of California, with record snow showing no signs of letting up. In the mountain town of Crestline, residents wrote "Help us" in the snow, while others waited in line to buy supplies at the town's grocery store. Another 5 feet of snow is possible in the Sierra Nevada mountains this week, adding to the 46 feet of snow the area already received this season. Thousands were without power over the weekend as blizzard conditions and near zero visibility caused accidents like this one along I-80. Many residents in San Bernardino County, California are still stranded under as much as 12 feet of snow.
It's really tough. I have a 12-year-old and my mother-in-law in the house.
San Bernardino County was forecast to see wind gusts of up to 55 miles per hour. Reducing visibility and hampering efforts to clear the snow. Sarah and Jason Brooks walked an hour and 20 minutes from their home to get food.
The snow is so high that you can get on the banks, and I can lift my pole up and actually touch the power line.
In Big Bear, the roads in are still blocked, cutting off the community from supplies.
It feels like it's the end of the world or something.
Store shelves are starting to empty and some gas stations are closed. The San Bernardino mountains have seen 12 feet of snow fall from back-to-back storms. John Irons said trees around his home were snapping in two from the weight of the snow.
Every time a tree fell, it was like a gunshot went off and then just a big old crash and snow everywhere. So
the National Guard was working to rescue trapped families. Across the nation, severe weather is causing more problems. People in at least 37 states are already feeling the effects of a fierce winter storm that brought heavy snow, damaging winds, and tornadoes. Almost 500,000 Americans from Kentucky to Michigan were in the dark Sunday after a massive front dumped heavy snow across much of the nation's northern tier and slammed parts of the south with powerful thunderstorms, tornadoes, and wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. At least 13 people died, 5 in Kentucky alone. This video captured the moment hurricane-force wind gust brought down a White Castle sign in Bowling Green, Kentucky, bending it in half before it crashed onto a car. For parts of the eastern United States, from New England down to West Virginia, winter for some has been a no-show. But that could end as this storm moves east. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, please protect yourself. If you're in advance of this storm, make sure you have enough supplies, enough to weather it out and weather this storm. We look at California, what's happened there. They weren't ready for it. And it's record amount of snow, and now they're trapped, and it's a horrible situation where you have to write in the snow, help us, because there is no help available. You don't have what you need just to live. So protect yourself if you're in the advance of this storm. Well, in other news, what used to be a big tent for Republicans is turning into a one-man show. Ephraim Graham brings us that story and more from the CBN Newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, this weekend's Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, featured speeches from GOP leaders and presidential candidates. Still, some potential candidates opted to skip it. As Matt Galka explains, CPAC seems to be all about former President Donald Trump.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today, I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution. Not going to let this happen.
Trump closed out the weekend to the delight of his supporters.
I have a lot of friends that have said President Trump's lost his mojo. President Trump's lost nothing. When he starts back on the campaign trail, everyone will see. And I truly believe that if you were ever a supporter, you're still a supporter. If you called yourself a supporter and now you're thinking differently, you were never a true supporter.
This is the battle. This is the hill that we'll die on. We'll bring President Trump back.
2023 marked a big change for this event. Started in 1974 with Ronald Reagan as the keynote speaker, it grew to become a premier destination for rising conservatives. As Trump's domination of the convention has grown, audience numbers have thinned. Still, the former president easily won the weekend straw poll for the GOP presidential nomination with 62% of the vote.
We've lost the popular vote in the last 7 out of 8 presidential elections. Our cause is right, but we have failed to win the confidence of a majority of Americans. That ends now. If you're tired of losing, put your trust in a new generation.
2024 candidate and former UN ambassador Nikki Haley didn't let the Trump-friendly audience temper her message. The partisan heckling didn't sit well with Juan Echeverri, one of the few attendees who seemed ready to move on.
I got a little bit heated because I think that the Republican Party is sometimes getting a little bit of a cultist mentality, that we think that Trump is kind of like deserves the presidency, that it was stolen from him and he has a birthright to it. That's not the case. He's going to be challenged, and rightly so.
The only other likely candidate who spoke here was former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Compare that to 2016, when more than a half dozen addressed the crowd. Another sign why some have labeled this year's event TPAC.
Not just here at CPAC, but everywhere I go, is President Trump is the guy they want back.
I am a Trump supporter 100%. I believe Ron DeSantis is a great governor, and I think he should stay there for another 4 years.
If he runs this time against Donald J. Trump, the MAGA movement will destroy him.
Meanwhile, in Florida, just a few miles from Mar-a-Lago, another influential conservative group had their own competing event. The Club for Growth brought in DeSantis, Haley, Pompeo, Senator Tim Scott, and former Vice President Mike Pence, among others, to talk to potential political donors. Trump was not invited. Matt Galka, CBN News.
New York Mayor Eric Adams is clarifying personal statements about faith and government, addressing an interfaith prayer breakfast last week. Adams linked gun violence in schools to taking prayer out of the classroom. He also said children should be instilled with faith and belief, and criticized the idea of separation of church and state.
Don't tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body, church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body dies. I can't separate my belief because I'm an elected official.
Sunday on CNN State of the Union program, Mayor Adams gave a more complete explanation.
Government should not interfere with religion. Religion should not interfere with government. That can't happen, and it should never happen. But my faith is how I carry out the practices that I do in the policies, such as helping people who are homeless, such as making sure that we show compassion in what we do in our city.
Adams is a non-denominational Christian who has said children will benefit from faith-based clubs and field trips to different houses of worship. President Biden paid tribute to a watershed moment in the civil rights movement Sunday, joining a crowd of marchers in Selma, Alabama, to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge. On March 7, 1965, what's known as Bloody Sunday, police assaulted civil rights demonstrators as they tried to cross the bridge. They were on their way to the Capitol to demand voting rights. 8 days later, President Lyndon Johnson introduced the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Turning now to the nuclear situation in Iran, the regime is promising to cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency. The head of the IAEA met with Iranian leaders this weekend. He said Iran pledged to allow cameras and other monitoring equipment to be put back inside nuclear-related facilities. And Iran made a commitment to cooperate with a probe into undeclared nuclear materials discovered at the sites. Recently, the agency disclosed it found uranium at an Iranian nuclear site enriched to levels just short of nuclear material. In nearby Turkey, the humanitarian effort to help earthquake victims continues. As Brody Carter shows us, CBN's Operation Blessing is still there, working in some of the hardest to reach villages.
Devastation, destruction can be seen in nearly every city of Turkey. Right now, we're in Adana. That's where CBN News is stationed, where some 400 people alone died after several buildings collapsed. Now, despite this, the city is still a refuge for those who've been displaced. It's also a main hub for CBN's Operation Blessing, where they can gather food and supplies for those in desperate need.
Everyone knows someone, whether it be family or friend, who's died or their house has been destroyed or their life has just been utterly shattered.
Operation Blessing remains steadfast in its commitment to serve the people of Turkey. 1.9 million people are internally displaced. Many have fled to Adana, living in tents and temporary shelters.
There's a continued need for financial support here for many individuals, for many organizations, so that Operation Blessing can stay here and we can continue to operate and even increase what we're doing to help more families on a daily basis.
Operation Blessing's Benjamin Britton says despite the damage and destruction, Adana remains a lifeline for the villages their team serves in Hatay, where an estimated 40% of deaths occurred. They travel to Adana several times a week to collect valuable goods and food for the people in hard-to-reach areas.
The supplies consist of predominantly food items, so we're buying bulk food items like these food boxes, and as well as like rice, beans, oil, sugar, things like that, and then as well as hygiene supplies. So we're serving usually at least 500 people a day is the goal, sometimes more in terms of just the hot foods we're serving, and then from there we're distributing on average around 300 boxes of food.
It's unclear how long it will take to find proper shelter. Tent communities have appeared throughout the country, but more are needed.
The destruction is still here. It's not going away. I mean, it'll be years to start to slowly rebuild for many of these people, whether it be their homes or their businesses. And so it's not a short-term problem. Although there is a lot of damage and it can seem hopeless, Jesus can provide hope, and he can be there in the darkness.
Reporting in Adana, Turkey, Brody Carter, CBN News.
A long journey to recovery that's only just begun. Gordon?
And if you want to help with this long journey, Operation Blessing needs resources in order to keep our teams in the field, to keep providing for people in need. If you want to be a part of it, it's real simple. Just pick up the phone and call us. 1-800-700-7000. Say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Just put Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line of a check. You can also text OBDR to 71777, and a designated giving page will come up on your phone, or you can just go to cbn.com. Either way, do it now. Let us be part of helping these people in their time of need.